Hey, Emmy, Tommy Gibbons here. Great to have you in this course. I'm sorry the plan didn't work out to do the PhD seminar on theological hermeneutics. And I'm kind of wondering if you are living in the US or if you're living abroad. I think you talked about in this oh yeah, here in this forum, you talked about where I think you have been living or are living. Um, but it's in Qatar, right? So yeah. Anyway, let me know if you're in the US or in Qatar because I want to keep that in mind for the times I offer for the live discussions that are optional but hopefully convenient. And hey, I wanted to send you this reply video here in week one because it gives me a chance to say hello and kind of get the conversation started and also give you some initial reaction to what you've got in both response forums, which is great, by the way. Good stuff. I I think that what you have begun to draw from Habakkuk is on the right track. I worry a little bit that Witherington kind of rushes to certain assumed terms of Romans without kind of digging into what's happening in Habakkuk enough. And the crisis that Habakkuk is navigating seems to me to provide kind of crucial context for what faith means and therefore what Paul is kind of building on in Romans. And there, as I think you do highlight, a communal call to rely on God rather than pride, power, social status. I think that's right. I think we can thicken that stuff, though, a little bit by digging a little deeper into Habakkuk, where, as Habakkuk describes the situation, he's outraged, horrified at what God has allowed to befall his generation of the people of God. How could God raise up such a cruel oppressor um, to sort of correct Israel's path? And the response that comes from the Lord, that becomes the word of the Lord of the prophet, is that the temptation is to give up on God, to give up on living justly, to cave to the temptation of oppressors, to kind of live a dog eat dog sort of life, exploiting the vulnerable, taking advantage of the dire circumstances of others, and kind of exploiting that situation, exploiting vulnerable people. That's the way of the proud and the arrogant. By contrast, the just by faith will live. So that faith, you can see there, sort of finds its meaning in trusting concretely in Israel's God as the provider for Israel's life, rather than resorting to a prideful exploitation of others, taking advantage of others' vulnerability. And this is going to be key to how Paul then uh, uses faith, teaches faith, uh, in contrast to being judgmental, in contrast to pretending to rule over others, trusting God to be the judge. And this is also worth kind of highlighting in the connection of the relevance of God's faith or faithfulness. So, there's some discussion about this in the commentaries because of the difference between the Septuagint and the Masoretic text when it comes to the faith that is in view. But this is where I'm kind of sympathetic to Bart, that we don't want to draw too fine a distinction between, or too uh, kind of clear distinction between the faith of God and the faith of the human, because, as is clear in Habakkuk, the faith of the just grows from the faith of God. It grows from trusting that God will act in good faith, that God will be faithful. So that in that sense, the faith of the human, of God's covenant partner, is the fruit of God's own faith. And that's what I think Paul's getting at when he talks about the justice of God being revealed from faith to faith. So that's just a way to try to dig in a little deeper here uh, to what Paul is doing with Habakkuk. And turning here to the second response form, I love what you've drawn from Taubes. And I too have kind of like sort of drawn to the tone. He's just kind of like, there's this dry humor running through his lectures. And you find this in other things that he wrote as well. And to think that he was able to maintain that in a time when he knew he was going to die soon and giving what was going to be his kind of last testament. So, really amazing man. And I like what you've been able to draw from him in terms of how Paul's gospel grows out of Jewish commitments as opposed to being something that replaces Judaism with Christianity or something like that. So I'm hoping we can move away from that framework and towards uh, recognizing the way that Paul's gospel remains an expression of Jewish faith, you might say. Um, anyway, more I could say, but I think that's enough for this first video. Again, great to have you in the class. Thanks for your good work in week one, and looking forward to more conversation throughout the summer. If you don't mind, if you don't want to reply to this video, you don't have to. You're, of course, welcome to, but at least give me a one word received or something like that so that I know that the video came through and that you were able to see it. Welcome to the course, Emmy. Looking forward to working with you.